You're probably thinking, let's see. Let me put more digits onto these as well. If you look at it, the average return for S&P 500 is higher than all three assets, and the risk for S&P 500 is lower than all three assets. But somehow, uh, the so-called minimum variance portfolio uh, doesn't have all SPY. That's because some of the correlations can be negative. Okay, this basically says, uh, or let me put it. Let's do a different thing. Let's take the average of SPY as our target. Okay, and let's rerun that. Okay. Well, for that, it still says you should get uh, mostly US. But if you are into, I'm going to do 0.19%. Technically speaking, these are not going to be feasible anyway. So for this one, I'm not going to worry about it. For portfolios that needs to earn 0.19%, the minimized risk is much higher, much lower, I'm sorry. Now let's do this one. We have just two of them, two more of them, so that I can get a reasonable curve. Let me do it again. Oh, it says it could not find a feasible solution. Okay. Oh yeah, it can't go below that. So if you are limited to only what's available, if you are limited to only positive rates, that does not seem to be much room for international assets. Okay, at least at this aggregation level. If we did something like individual countries, it may have been a different story. And here's kind of the reason. Right here, I'm gonna do kind of a correlation matrix. Oops. Base special. Come on. Transpose. Actually, okay. I'm going to calculate the correlation coefficient between EEM and FA, EEM and EWC, and so on and so forth. Correlation between the EEMs and FA. That's pretty high since I want to keep the EEM constant. 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Looks like it's almost constant correlation with EEM. It's about 85%. Next thing with FA. Correlation of the FA with the other two. And finally, correlation of Canada and SPY. Let me make all these. These are very highly positively correlated. Even Canada is not very highly correlated with US. In fact, the lower is the correlation between two assets, the higher is the potential for diversification to reduce risk. But in this case, you know, these guys are pretty high. But if you were to allow some limited shorting, things may be different. Let's do this, return data, no shorts. I'm just gonna move these. Limited shorts. Shorting international assets may not be that easy. That's why I'm limiting. We will limit shorting so that maximum short weight for any assets 0.15. Maximum total short is 0.5. Maximum leverage for any asset is 0.25. Oh, I'm sorry. maximum 1.5, something like that. This means some of the negative weights can be at most, let me put it, negative. Some of the negative weights can be at most negative 0.5. This says some of the positive weights can be at most 1.5. I don't want to do it too unlimited because there are limits to how much you can short things or how much you can leverage. So let's see. Data, not data analysis. Okay. I want to minimize the risk by changing those cells. Okay, I still want the weights to add up to 1, and I want the difference between the target and reward 0. I will no longer make the weights non-negative. For now, let's close that one. This is some weights. I'm gonna put in some negative weights. Let's do this. Sorry. Remember, I want to limit, let me see, where is that? Maximum negative weight or the minimum negative weight to be negative 0.15. So the only condition I have to impose is the smallest weight is greater than or equal to negative 0.15, right? Let me actually, here, let me